channel. So it seems like the stream is starting. Test, test, test. Okay, microphone seems to be working. There we go, and we have here page 57 from my comic, Niels Feynman's Time Traveling Adventures, and I still have a couple of things to color. Making folders for things so it's easier for me to organize myself and the way I go from one layer to another. Baskets should actually be higher, like this. But they're not continue, so I'm gonna put them lower. No, it looks better like June placed them. I'm gonna have to scooch the background a bit lower. And it should be increased. So I pressed can't remember what it's called in English. Brackets, there we go. So you press the brackets keyboard key on your keyboard in order to increase or decrease the size of the brush. And it's a really good idea to learn the keyboard shortcuts. It just makes it easier to switch between tools, and you save some time. And of course, if you have a tablet, it can you can change it with that circle interface button thingy. I don't really use it much. I haven't been able to figure it out how it works. So I keep to the keyboard shortcuts. Oh, hi Anna, how are you? How's it going? Let me see, my microphone working? Yeah, seems to be working. Doesn't want to let me move? Why? I'm fine. Here it's snowing. Really? Wow, you have snow. So late in the season. Is it normal for you guys to have snow now? Didn't even come to take paper and cardboard. I'm not familiar with the weather for your area. Here we had yesterday, I think, 7 degrees, which was really strange, but I was happy because I went out a bit. Once it snowed in April, But it's not like a normal thing. Today it was supposed to snow here in Michigan, but it didn't. And honestly, I'm kind of happy, because I'm tired of the snow and I don't want any more. So it's kind of normal, maybe not all the snow it's coming in these days. Because there's been so much talk of crazy weather, and I can't say that I've been following it for too long, or that I remember what was going on when I was little. So I can't really tell what's the issue is. It used to snow more in December, January. Because you know, memory is a funny thing, and it's kind of dependent on what people tell you was before when you were little. Like, for example, my grandmother, she often told me that the stork brought me to her instead of my mom, and that it snowed on my birthday. And I always thought she was, lying about the stork. But and like never occurred to me that she would be lying about the weather as well. Snowy. Yeah. And uh, it so happens that my birthday was during the revolution. So it kind of started 2 weeks, I think, or maybe a week before I was born, something like that, and then uh, it it arrived at the capital as well. So it started in Timișoara, and then it came to the capital as well. Timișoara being the western part of the country. And it's a very well documented event. There are just a whole bunch of photographs from that period, and people were going around in t-shirts even though it was like the beginning of December. So you had people going around in t-shirts. And I always thought that, oh, the revolution started in maybe October, and then it got to December at the capital, but that wasn't the time span. So I kind of looked into it, and I was like, oh, come on, my grandmother lied even about this detail. Like, is there something she wouldn't have lied about? The whole stork story has no truth in it whatsoever. Not even the weather outside was truthful in what she said. Yeah, she told me that the stork brought me completely butt naked to her window, and that it was snowing outside. And I tried to find evidence if it snowed in that period whatsoever, and was like, no drop of snow. Hi June, how are you? I was telling Yana about the how my grandmother lied about the stork story. I don't know if I told you. Because she lied even about the weather. I thought she just lied about the stork bringing me. Yes, I thought that, because she said when I was born, the stork brought me to her instead of my mom. And that it was snowing outside, and that the stork tapped on the window, and she came and opened the window, and there I was in a little blanket, and my butt was pink or something like that. And I grew up, and there's still discussions about the revolution and the repercussions, and the situation in Romania today. And photographers show photographs online on Facebook, and I saw the photographs, and I was thinking, hey, it doesn't look like it was snowing during the revolution, because I was born around there. And at first I thought it was, the time frame that, oh, it took a while for them to get to the capital and start the full-fledged revolution. But I was like, no, it didn't snow much in that December. And I was like, oh my god, even about this you lied. It was like any truth to your story. Because she told me, oh, and I loved you so much from the second you were born, and I loved you so much that the stork brought you to me instead of your mom. And I was like, what the heck? Kind of weird story is that. So I hope that the at least the loving part was true, but your grandmother is a troll. Yeah. It's reconnected. Okay. Reconnecting. Is it good now? I've closed some of the pages here because I had a whole bunch of stuff opened. So yeah, she used to tell a lot of stories. Like one of the things she would say is that she understood Chinese. Used to lie to me when I was little. They made me believe I that you did an egg, that you laid an egg. June, I think you're like the older sister or something like that. Did you have a younger sister? I used to tease my sister all the time. This led me to try to hatch an egg in the old computer chair I had. Imagine the outcome. Oh, poor Anna. So young, so trusting. Ah, you're in the middle. So I have a younger sister, and when I was little, because she was annoying, I you hid the evidence under my bed. Oh, the smell, I can imagine. Oh my god. Yeah, so for me, my little sister, um, uh, because she was annoying, I started to tease her, and I try to make her believe that she's a monkey. So I would tell her that she's a monkey and that she's adopted from the zoo or from the circus, something, I don't remember. And I would tell her that she has a tail, and she was like, no, I don't have a tail. And I'm like, can you see the back of your bottom? Like, there's a tail coming out of your bottom. You're like, you're definitely a monkey. You almost got away, Anna. So yeah, I would tell my sister that she was a monkey, and one time she got really upset. And she started crying, and she went to our mother, and she was like, stop teasing her. And after that I wasn't allowed, because my mom told her, no, you're not a monkey, no, you're not adopted. But yeah, I don't know, she would like keep coming and pestering me with stuff like kids sometimes do. Like she would be bored, and she would come and pester me while I was doing my homework or trying to relax and watch something. So I think that's how it started. Because I wasn't allowed to tell her to go away. Because my parents be like, oh, you know, be nice to your sister. I don't know what Sansa did to Arya. I know that Arya put sheep poop in her bed mattress. Ah, yes, page 58. Let me open it. Good that you reminded me because I wanted to talk to you about it and I forgot. So here in page 58, yeah. So Erwin is at the table. So Erwin is at the table and he just caught the fish. He got it and cleaned the fish, and he's making that neem face. So this one. But I mean, I would do it with my right hand because I'm right-handed and Erwin is too, so he's gonna do it in reverse to the to the character, to the meme. And here is his collar, and it's gonna be, yeah, like delicious. And the color is gonna be opened up because it charges like a solar panel. So it's gonna open up like something like this, and it will recharge because if you remember in the fishing page, his shield drained the battery from his collar, so it's gonna need to recharge. And here Niels just came home and is closing the door, and he has food in his hand, like vegetables or salad, and then the bag. And here Marie is coming down the stairs, and I haven't decided if I'll give her a line or anything, but she doesn't have her mouth open when she speaks anyway, so it doesn't matter. Yeah, so solar panel and the round thing of the collar. And here they're in front of the pot, and he's scooping the tallow in the pot where they're gonna fry the fish and the potatoes. And here's the purple potato, and here's the radish and other things they're cutting, and Marie is bringing a stick. Solar panel out in the window, yes. And here they're talking about cooking, and he's mixing things up, and they're not sure about if it's looking okay because it's splashing the oil. I mean, to be honest, I don't really know how tallow behaves. I don't know if it behaves like vegetable oil. Lard and frying pan. I mean, here it looks like it's like normal oil, but I'm not sure. Like if you put the whole jar in, if it, I mean, this looks like normal oil, as far as I can tell. I've never cooked with lard, so I don't really know how it behaves, but I think it would behave like oil, I suppose. And here in the last panel, he's asking, think it's done? And Marie's like, yeah, I think it's done. And then in the next page, they bring Newton the food, and it looks delicious, but the fish smells like lamb. And here Niels thinks he did a good job, and he's super excited. He's like, Newton, are we gonna do science? Can I help you now? And he's like super excited and begging him, and Newton tastes how horrible it is, and then he's like, here, take these calculations and leave me alone. Just starve in peace. So that's kind of it. Okay, good. And then page 60 is gonna be uh, Niels being sad about how Newton gave him exercises that are too simple, and then Marie comforts him, and he's like, oh, don't worry, do these exercises and then ask for harder ones. And then Niels will do that, and Newton will give him like really hard ones, and then of course Niels will solve them because he's a little genius. Also, the mathematics in the future, I assume, will be more advanced for his age, because he'll be going to a good school, and his dad is a physicist, so he would know how to do those calculations. And then because he knows how to do those calculations in a time where most people were illiterate and not going to school, is gonna be really suspicious for Newton, and he'll think that maybe Haley or no, maybe Hooke, sorry, maybe Hooke sent Niels to spy on him. Because if you remember, there's some animosities between Robert Hooke, who is the president of the Royal Society, and Isaac Newton. And the members of the Royal Society have to do research and stuff and report to the president of the Royal Society. And Newton really didn't like them because mostly they kind of were goofballs in his views. The money wasn't properly allocated. For example, for some of the research, they spent so much money on a book about fish that they ran out of money for anything else. And because Haley was so rich, he could afford to pay for Newton to publish his Principia Mathematica. So if Haley hadn't believed in Newton and saw that his math was good and hadn't invested the money in Newton, uh, that's progress in science that he made would have come later when somebody else did it. So Newton was already recognized for his contribution to the scientific world from his telescope and his research in optics. That's why he was in the Royal Society to begin with, why he was a Lucasian professor of mathematics at Cambridge. So he was already in his 40s and a recognized guy, so the Principia Mathematica is the one that like really put him on the map as outstanding scientist. Like made him part of the scientific revolution that was at the time as a truly important figure. Because there were a lot of scientists at the time making great progress and doing really good stuff. But he stood out because of the Principia Mathematica. And these were things that like he was sitting on for a while. He could have maybe had printed them earlier if there was funding for such things. And he did have correspondence with other scientists about this, so who knows, maybe 20 years down the line a student of one of those scientists would have published it instead of him. I'm not really sure how things would have gone down if Newton hadn't published it, but he did, and so now we all know about Newton. As not just a scientist that you get like a little footnote in a book. What he does, it's really important, and free laws of motion that he wrote in Principia Mathematica is something that every high school student is taught in at school because it's so important and fundamental. And you have now Newtonian physics and non-Newtonian physics, and like you have other branches, and one of these branches has his name because his contribution was so important. And for page 61 and 62, I'm gonna have to ask my husband for help to write the formulas, because I'm really not very good at math. Unfortunately, sadly, I can barely remember some stuff. I met some friends that are chemists recently, and the physicists and chemists, like, the discussion started about the state of students nowadays and how unprepared and stupid they are, and they were kind of wondering what's going on, and how the education system has been gutted and it's producing like really dumb students. Them being university professors, and they were remembering a whole bunch of stuff about mathematics that they did in school that they don't use now anymore because some of them are chemists or other things like that. So is not something that they have to deal with anymore. But they still remembered some of that mathematics, and I was thinking, oh my god, I can't even remember the names of these things. Maybe I didn't even do them in school, because they're a lot older than me, so they studied, they went to school during the communist regime, and I went to school after the revolution. And I was thinking, oh, I can't even remember the names. Like, if I have to Google this stuff, I can't even Google it because I don't know what to Google. It's that sad. I mean, there's some things you just can't Google. Like, what kind of mathematics did I do in school? And it's not gonna be able to tell you for some East European country. And now I think about it, I suspect I should have written it down so I know what to Google and to kind of know a bit about these things. Because I need it for my comic, and I don't know it. If you had told me this 20 years ago, you know, oh, you pay attention to math in school because you're gonna need it for a comic book 20 years from now, I would have said, you're crazy. Why would I need mathematics for a comic book? Who reads comics to learn about mathematics? Like, come on. And here I am. And this is the situation. Oh no, I don't have any textbooks. No. Because all of the textbooks you give them back to the school. And I do have a notebook that I accidentally took with me here to the US. And I mean, I have some titles here, but it's pretty loosely written. I have functions and trigonometry. Oh, progressions. I'm not sure if that's how they're called in English. Progressi geometrici. I didn't even remember these. And there were some other things that those chemists, the other physicists, mentioned, and I can't remember them. Let's see. Vectors. Yeah, no, they're not here. I can't find them. But anyway, even if I knew the name, like, I wouldn't understand what's written there anyway, so I'm gonna ask my husband for help on this one. 'Cause I'm not even sure about the mathematics that was available at the time. Because at the time Newton invented or established a branch of mathematics, I'm not sure. Newton calculus, and I don't remember how it's called in English. Okay, so it wasn't something that he invented, it was like something weird, pre-existing. Let's see. Google Translate. It's not translating well. I don't think so. Yeah, this is something else other than calculus, I think. Yeah, I know I asked my husband. I know he told me what it is, and I've already forgotten. So I'm gonna have to ask him again. Like, what was this all about? It's kind of greenish. I remembered it was kind of greenish because of the I can't remember. I saw a process of making glass, and it came out a bit greenish. Greenish grayish, yeah, the glass. Bye bye, June. Thanks for coming by. Oh, hi Kate. Long time no see. How have you been going? Can you hear me? Yes, you can. Awesome. So I was asking, how have you been doing? How's life? Background. And I'm gonna color it to soul green. And I think I got pretty much each panel. So I can now export this to Photoshop. Only home because I got sick. Oh, I'm so sorry for that. My sister got school off because it was cold. So the teachers were like, oh my god, it's cold. No more school, yay, kids stay home. We don't have to go to work today. It's too cold. Yeah. My sister's not complaining, obviously. She didn't want to go to school, but to me it's just weird. You don't have this problem in Michigan, and I don't think it's in Canada either, that you guys stop school because it's cold. They had minus 16 degrees, so they were like, yeah, no more school for us. It's too cold. You guys have the metric system in Canada, right? So when I say minus 16, you know what I'm talking about. Too lazy. Okay, then don't stress yourself. I can just talk to myself. I was just talking about mathematics. Putting myself to sleep. Because there's so much stuff I did in school and I can't even remember the names. And it's strange because I met some people that they could remember all the types of mathematics that they did in school, and I was sitting there 30 years younger than them and feeling stupid. I'm like, ah, can't remember this stuff. Which layer is this? Oh, it's on the grass layer. So it kind of gives me a bit of credence when they say that, oh, kids today, they're stupid, they don't do good mathematics in school or science or anything like that. And oh, what did I do? Why is my page upside down? I pressed something and it turned the page. There's so many buttons in oh, it's not in the right direction. What did I do? It flipped my page. Okay, how do I flip it back? Yeah, now do you know? But I don't even know what I pressed. Control. Okay, I'm back to normal now. This is what happens when you have too many keyboard shortcuts in your program. I wish it came with only like the basics. I don't know. And then you can add more if you wanted, because this happens to me often. Like so many. Any button you push, it's gonna do something. So we've gotten to page 57, and I'm just so proud of myself. Did I survive this long? Also proud of June. She's still alive after all of the perspective illustrations that we had to do. Reminds me of a comic about slice of life as an artist. And I think it was Sarah Scribbles. And so she draws a flower, everything's good. She draws a puppy, everything is good. She draws a person, everything is good. Then she has to draw perspective, and it's like the devil. And she just doesn't want to do it. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah, found it. So drawing people, great. Drawing plants, great. Drawing animals, great. Drawing anything requiring perspective. And this is how it looks. Let's see if I can zoom it in. There's the maximum. So that's panel 1, 2, 3. Let's see, panel 1, 2, 3. Oh, I didn't even do this one. Okay. So this is a old-timey British conservatory. So these are the precursors to greenhouses. So what they used to do, because in this time glass was still really expensive material. It's like you know, this fancy nano carbon fiber that we have today. And if you buy a bicycle with carbon fiber or anything like that, it's stupidly expensive. And so glass was the fancy material at the time, as far as I've read. Let's name this vases ink. So what they would do, first of all, only rich people had it. First public greenhouses, conservatories were in the 1900s, or no, it was the 19th century, so it was the 1800s, so over a century from when the action in the comic takes place, so it took them another 100 years for that. And so aside from only rich people having these, they would put them against a house. So I guess it was for heat, to have heat, and also to save some money on the glass. Because usually for a greenhouse you only need one side to be lit. And the action takes place in a church garden. I was hoping that I would do this in the Cambridge Botanical Garden, but at the time they didn't have one. So it was only 20 years later in our story, in history, sorry, that the Cambridge University medical school buys this land from the monastery and makes a physician garden in the 1 hectare area that is now in 1683 is under the monastery ownership. So they buy the land from the monastery for a lot of money because it's a prime downtown area. It's the middle of Cambridge. It's like a stone's throw away from the market, so you have Market Hill right up on the hill, and it's the area of the which is now physicians university, and also the anthropological museum. So that is what is in this area in today's timeline. But in 1683 it belonged to the monastery, and after that the Cambridge University bought the land. They did the physicians garden, so they grew medicinal herbs here for a long time until it was no longer feasible to do this. And now Cambridge does have its own botanical garden. Many universities have those, but it is outside of town and it's a lot bigger. And what they do is that they keep a lot of trees and plants in there to study. And the university that is near me as well has a little greenhouse garden, and it also has a small park-sized area right outside of the city limits. It is kind of open to the public. You can go walk your dog there, but you cannot ride your bicycle. And when we go there, we often see students, if we go during school hours, we can see students planting trees, cutting trees. They usually put a lot of labels on the trees, so you have a lot of little plastic ribbons tied to many of the trees. And they, I guess they conduct some research for school. And I was surprised just how much botanical investigation, I don't know if it can be called research, what the priests were doing, but there weren't that many places where a literate person could go and work. And if you're curious about the wider world, there weren't that many places where you can get an education in the Middle Ages. By Newton's time, you already had universities established where you can go and learn, so it wasn't just the churches. But I suspect that in this time, churches still had gardens where they would keep stuff. Exotic plants and other things like that, because the priests were the ones that were traveling all over the world and bringing back stuff. Like plants and animals. So I don't think it would have been far-fetched to have a banana tree or a lemon tree in a church garden. trying to remember the name of the guy of genetics that he started his research on peas, and took note of how you could selectively breed peas to get certain type of colors in the foliage, in the flowers, sorry. I can't remember his name. What was his name? I think I'm gonna have to Google this one. I know his name, but I just can't remember it right now. What was your name? Mendel? Oh, Mendel. Yeah, I was gonna say Mendeleev, but I knew for sure Mendeleev is the guy with the chemistry table. The table of elements. And I was like, it's not Mendeleev, but I know it's close. So it's Mendel. Mendel, and what was his first name? Because maybe that's how I'll remember him. Gregor. Okay, so it was Gregor. 1822. Ooh, he's really recent. He died in 1884. So I guess the church was still involved in this stuff quite a lot. Moravia is a real place. I thought it was made up. I think Maldonia is fake. Yeah, it's Maldonia doesn't exist. Okay. Yeah, so Moravia is real, Moldovia is real, Maldonia is not. But it makes you think it could be. Oh, it's almost 5 and I haven't done any of the shading. This was a detailed page, but I hope it will look nice and you guys will appreciate it when it's out. So I started publishing on Webtoons. If you prefer that platform to read my comic, you can go read it on Webtoons. hi Caesar, how are you? How are you doing? The potatoes are doing good. I've decided on several colors for them. I don't know if you saw or you were online when I went and looked for why is my page flipped? I looked at potatoes, so apparently purple potatoes is not a new thing. Image, canvas, rotation. There we go, now it's right. So this is in the church garden. So at that time, churches, they had a lot of people going around collecting stuff. So in the Middle Ages, a lot of the research was actually done in churches, of course, under um, religious guidance, but no other institution really had the financial power to do this stuff. I mean, kings would sometimes finance some endeavor, but they weren't as rich as the church. So I think a good example is Mendel. He was a priest, and he kind of laid the groundwork for genetics. He was a German, or a Czech, actually. Person, I think it was like the Austro-Hungarian Empire at that time. So I wanted to do this in the Cambridge Botanical Garden, because every university has a botanical garden, but this was such a long time ago that Cambridge didn't yet have a botanical garden. They did have a place where they stored specimens, but they didn't yet have their own botanical garden. So it was actually about 27 or 40 years, and I don't remember exactly, after the story of my comic takes place, that university purchases 1 hectare of land from the Bennett Monastery, and does the first physician's garden for the Medical University of Cambridge. And that's when the students start having a place to gather the plants they needed for them to practice their craft. Because at that time, medicine was pretty primitive, so you didn't have much in the way of chemically produced medicine. You had to go and grind up some plants. You needed aspirin, you needed to go grind some willow bark. So that's how they got their aspirin back then. And I'm gonna try and do the shading from a top-down view. I'm curious if it was more advanced in Germany or maybe France, the medicine. Because most of the documentation I read is in English in regards to history, so they kind of generally frame it as the scientific revolution started in the UK and then spread to the rest of the world. But whenever I read something I need for the comic, I keep getting names of German people or people in Germany doing a lot of research and developing a lot of stuff, and a lot of chemical elements having German names. Anyway, I'm glad to be alive today. We got so much medicine now. If you're rich, you're okay. There's a YouTube channel that I like to watch. It's called Rare Earth, and they go and visit all kinds of far-flung places and do little reports about the history of that location or that event. It's quite interesting. It's the astronaut Chris Hadfield's son that does the that's show, that series, and that's how I found out about it also, because I follow a couple of astronauts online. Just because they're kind of the lead singer, the star of a band. So you have all these people doing research in the background, but they're like stage personnel or the drummer or the maybe at best you got like the guitar singer, but usually it's all eyes are on the astronauts. Because they're so unique in what they do. There's so few people that go to outer space that they're really like rock stars. And sometimes I wonder, how it felt when people first started flying. Like pilots were maybe as interesting 70 years ago. We had Amelia Earhart and that other guy that Leonardo DiCaprio played in a movie that was crazy, and I forgot his name, but I think he was important. So the movie was Aviator. I can't remember what the name of the guy was. Howard Hughes. Okay, so it was Howard Hughes, the guy. And they were kind of the rock stars of their time, I think, because they were the pilots. You had a whole bunch of engineers that worked on that, but the pilot was the rock star. And now you have a whole bunch of pilots. Every time you go on vacation with an airplane, somebody flies you there. But you don't go for their autograph anymore. You let them do their job. Leave them alone. And I wonder if in the future, when space travel becomes as common as plane flight, uh, if people will be less enthusiastic about meeting a pilot, space pilot. He's not just any pilot, he's a space pilot. So yeah, I was watching the show Rare Earth, and they went to some place where they had monkeys. I can't remember, some tropical country, and uh, the genius correspondent, they got a little monkey to he wanted a photograph with a monkey and his wife, because they thought it was gonna be fun to take a photograph with a monkey. And what the monkey did was bit his wife's face. And so they immediately went to the hospital to try and go get some rabies shot, because if I'm not mistaken, Caesar probably know better since you want to become a doctor, but from what I remember and understand, once rabies sits in, you can't really get rid of it. It's kind of really bad, so you have to go get your shots very quickly before it starts to manifest the disease. So they immediately went to the hospital to try and get some medicine, but the healthcare there is not free in that country. It's kind of like America. So they had to wait a lot, and they were starting to get worried, like what were they gonna do. And they kind of took a big scare from that. But apparently, a lot of people there die of rabies bites from monkeys often because the healthcare is not free and they have so many problems with poverty that people can't afford it. So they die from a monkey bite. And that sounds to me terrible. Like you're at the funeral and you're like, beloved uncle died from a monkey bite. It just seems like the stupidest way to die. Easily preventable, yet... I mean, I shouldn't laugh about it. I'm certain that quite a lot of people died from that over the years, and it just seems really sad that it's happening. Yeah, I mean, they're Canadians, so they don't have monkeys in Canada, so they probably thought, oh, you know, I don't think they even have stray dogs. So they thought it would be cute. Oh, you know, we'll take a photo with the monkey. What can go wrong? And their cab driver, yeah, their cab driver, they have those little cars, their tricycle cars. He panicked, and the guy wasn't rich, but he went to the market and got some, you know, homemade remedy for the monkey bite, which doesn't really help, but that's all he knew to do in this type of situation, because people don't go to the hospital there too much because it's expensive. Doctors Without Borders should start coming to the U.S. as well, because it's really ridiculous here with the prices. You know, you hear on TV, oh, they're cutting Medicare, Medicaid, oh, people are gonna die. And I mean, for us in Romania, it just seems silly. I mean, you don't really maybe believe it, but it's kind of true. I mean, for us, we have insurance for the dental issues because we pay, and still there are expenses that we can't afford. So I need 2 crowns. Am nevoie de 2 coroane la măsele. And I can't get them because they're just too expensive. It's $1,000 a crown, and it's just unaffordable. A plane ticket is 1,500 euro. A crown for a tooth is 1,000. If you have insurance, it can be $500, but it's still ridiculously expensive. And I do see a lot of people with bad teeth around here, especially employees at Walmart or stuff like that, you know, employees that are really poor and they're barely making enough money to live. They have, you know, in Simpsons movies or in other cartoons, they make fun of British people in the 1800s, and they're like, oh, you have British teeth, ha 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 ha, you're so poor. Um, it's not really a joke here, because it's kind of real. I went at the gas station and I got served by a lady who didn't have any front teeth. I don't know who kicked her teeth out, because usually you don't lose your front teeth to cavities normally. And usually cavities happen in the back of the teeth, not in the front. So I don't know what happened to her, but she obviously couldn't afford to fix her teeth. And I've seen people without their front teeth in Romania as well. I mean, I had a math teacher for 2 days. She didn't have any front teeth because she needed to change her dentures. But this was a woman in her 60s, and she only stayed like this for a couple of days. I don't know if that lady in a village somewhere here in Michigan could afford that. And I'm sure we have plenty that can't afford in Romania as well in the village areas. I mean, you see a whole bunch of elderly people when there's election time, they come on TV and they have missing teeth. But this lady, she was young, so I kind of feel really bad for her not having her front teeth. Especially since they're pretty religious here and like you have to get married. It's not helping your chances of finding a husband if you're missing your front teeth. But yeah, we're gonna hopefully return for a visit in Romania soon. Maybe this summer. And we'll get to fix our teeth. And we have other friends that are also Romanian, and they were like, no, we never do our teeth here, even though we have dental insurance. We pay the insurance, but we still go to the dentist back home. And I'm like, it's ridiculous. The prices are just ridiculous. And I did go to the dentist for some fillings, and the nurse, the assistant, was kind of worried because she was gonna get kicked off of Obamacare or something, Medicaid. I don't remember exactly what the correct name of the thing is because they have different in healthcare plans, and one of them's Medicare, colloquially named Obamacare, so it's not the official name Obamacare. It's just something that people call it. And it's something that I think one of the former Republican presidents actually started and Obama expanded. And then you have some other Medicare, whatever, for more affluent people. It's really confusing. I asked a friend that has been living here for over 15 years to explain this stuff to me, and she was like, I don't know either. I don't understand it. it's almost 5. I think it would be something like this. Be kind of squarish. I think that's good enough. Kind of how the lighting's coming, because I'm gonna have the panels over it anyway. Okay, so that's gonna be it for today. I'm gonna finish the page offline, and I'm gonna publish it this Sunday on Tapastic, so you can go read it there. Having an account on Tapastic is completely free. You don't even need an account to read the comics, but if you wanna help me out and support my work, then making an account and subscribing and liking and leaving a comment helps my comic out. So you can read the comics with no worries, but if you want to support, then please go and make an account, and then like and share and all of that. So thank you for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it, and see you next week in the next stream. Thank you for watching, everyone. Bye bye.